Look, I'd rather be the UK right now than anybody else in Europe.
Now, let's get the opinion of Mick Mulvaney, who is a former chief of staff to Donald Trump. Find out what he made of this evening's press conference and the sit down beforehand. Mick, good evening. Thank you for being with us.
Good evening.
Give me your lowdown on what you thought was most significant. What made your ears prick up in this news conference, or what we heard before it from each leader?
I'll give you a specific and a general. And the specific was the comments on the trade deal, which I've been waiting to hear now for 8 years. Very excited about the possibilities there. The general was what you folks have already mentioned a couple of times, which was the rapport and the sort of the personal chemistry. As you will recall, I don't think the Starmer Starmer government got onto a very good foot immediately after the election, or even prior to the election with Donald Trump. Your foreign secretary had said some things that obviously weren't very well received, but clearly they have done some of the necessary work to sort of warm things back up. Keep in mind, Donald Trump always forgives but never forgets. But clearly, these gentlemen were on good terms today, and I think that's important. Donald Trump likes doing deals with people that he likes. I wasn't in the room. I've never been in the room with him and Mr. Starmer together. I have been in the room with him and President Macron, and that I got to tell you, that's not a warm and fuzzy place to be. So clearly there was a marked difference, I think, between what we saw today with Keir Starmer and we saw earlier in the week with Emmanuel Macron.
So you've seen what happens when it goes wrong, and you can clearly see today it went well. Can you rate Keir Starmer's performance for us?
No complaints at all. I think he did a really, really nice job. Clearly, look, these things, a lot of the work for these meetings is done before the meeting. Yes, with Donald Trump, it's never fully scripted, right? But my guess is what you saw today was the way that things have been going for several days or weeks before the meeting. It's not like Trump is going to be upset with somebody and then go into a meeting and change his mind. He clearly went into the meeting with Prime Minister Starmer in a good place in the relationship, and that was encouraging. I think what you're seeing here is probably, if you want to sort of step back, see maybe Trump telegraphing that the relationship is going to be different with the United Kingdom than it is with the rest of Europe. And that clearly the special relationship does matter. And Trump, keep in mind, go back several years, was a big proponent of Brexit, thought it would be easier to do deals with the United Kingdom if they were outside of the European Union. And Trump has never been driven really by political philosophy when it comes with dealing folks overseas. There's conservatives he likes and doesn't like. There's leftists that he likes and doesn't like. So, or left-leaning folks. So listen, I come away from this as someone who likes to see the relationship flourish between the two countries as very optimistic.
So the UK and US are to work on a new economic deal. JD's working on it, and I've written on my notes, because Keir Starmer and JD Vance had not a bust up, but the most spiky moment of the whole day was when JD Vance, when Trump handed over to him to talk about his issues with free speech in the UK. And actually Keir Starmer gave a really good response. But the fact that JD is working on this trade deal, I don't know, probably isn't significant, but I've just written here. We're going to have a great trade agreement for both countries, said Donald Trump, a new economic deal. We're going to begin work on a new deal with advanced technology at its core, said Keir Starmer. So, plenty leaning into that. And it's clear, isn't it? I mean, the thing about a trade deal is that it was appreciated, and Donald Trump seemed to be happy to go with the fact and to embrace the fact that both countries are even. There is no trade deficit that the UK has with the United States. And so it's even Stevens, isn't it, Mick? And so and so I suppose it's kind of ripe for a trade deal because the US doesn't feel like they need anything back. And that's a significant difference, is it, with other countries within the EU? Donald Trump saying the other day that he thought that the EU was set up to aggress the United States. He's not a fan of many countries in Europe. He feels that tariffs are the way forward. And he did double down on that again this evening.
Yeah, a couple of different things. Look, trade deals, first of all, Trump likes bilateral, not multilateral. So that plays nicely into a UK-US deal. But trade deals are always hard to do because Mostly because of farmers, right? I mean, that's where a lot of them usually break down. And obviously, there's a lot of financial services, but generally speaking, this should be the easiest trade deal that either country has negotiated in a long time. Your labor laws are solid, so are ours. Your environmental protection laws are solid, so are ours. We're gonna have to deal with chlorinated chicken. I get all that, but look, we share a common culture. We share a common language. You folks are spending a lot of money on your own defense and planning on spending more, which is a big deal for Trump. When I speak all over the world and people always ask me, how does Trump feel about this in such a country? I'm like, look, I don't have any specific insight, but if you don't have a massive trade surplus with the U.S. and you are spending a good bit of money on your own defense, that tends to put you in the good column that describes the United Kingdom. So there's all sorts of reasons that that there should be a deal that gets done. We move towards a deal that gets done. That being said, they are hard to do, and there are certainly folks in the Trump administration who are not pro free trade, including the trade advisors. So there'll be challenges, but there always are on these things.
Do we have any idea what this deal might look like? We heard a great trade agreement was mentioned, a new economic deal. Starmer said begin work on a new deal with advanced technology at its core. Do we have any idea whether this deal might just be about tech and nothing else besides, or whether this will be a lot more rounded?
Anything is better than nothing. I saw that same line. I didn't, and what I took away was, and this may be my bias having served as a special envoy to Northern Ireland, was that they were going to rely on advanced technology to help make it work.
Yeah.
And that tech can do things in the 21st century that you couldn't do in the 20th century, that could enable a broader free trade agreement. Look, I think if you just do a deal on advanced tech, that's great, better than nothing. I'd like to see a much broader deal that includes financial services, includes ag, includes freer movement of people and capital. So that's what you folks are good at. It's what we're good at. And I think we make quite a team on the world stage when it comes to those sorts of things. But again, if anybody says they know what the deal looks like right now, they're lying to you.
Yeah, and equally Starmer and Trump. Just a final word briefly, Mick. How do you think Donald Trump's feeling about this? From everything you know that he's like behind closed doors and in public, and what we saw on Monday with Macron and today with Starmer, quite a bit of, laughter, bonhomie going on. How would you sum up what you would understand to be Trump's mood, his perspective right now?
You forget, I mean, he's first generation American on his mother's side. I mean, she is born in Scotland. So there was always a strong connection there. I remember we were at the dinner with Her Majesty the Queen, in 2019, and the rapport he had with then Prince Charles. He's a relationship person. And I know that sounds like it might be demeaning the office, but it's just human nature. You like dealing with people that you like. And Trump, certainly liked the king now. He certainly seemed to like Mr. Starmer now. And that is only good when it comes to doing deals on trade, on defense, on whatever. So no, I think that Mr. Starmer can go home thinking that he did a decent job representing his country. Trump walks out of the meeting saying, let's see what we can do with these folks. Look, I'd rather be the UK right now than anybody else in Europe, because you're right. The relationship is different between your island and the rest of the continent.